Hello everyone, I'm Hillary with Dominion Tea, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the history of brewing flowers in hot water, using a couple of our blends to kind of walk you through them. So let's go a little bit back in time, using lavender, right? So our lavender dreams is actually a blend of lavender and chamomile. The Egyptians, all the way back to the Egyptians, used to steep lavender and use it for stomach distress. That's the way it was documented. They would also use it in pillows and in the stuffing in their bed. And so the use of lavender has been around for centuries, and that continued well. It moved from the Egyptians to the Romans and through the Middle East. Continued well through European history, and then traveled here stateside with colonists. And so that's kind of a fun one back in history. The chamomile too is out of Egypt in the Middle East. In fact, some of the best chamomile on the planet grows in Egypt. It's native there. For those of us who take on trying to grow chamomile here in the States, we find out real fast it's an invasive species. It takes over everything. So it's best grown in a pot here in the US. But the chamomile flowers were also used for their scent. Now, Egyptian chamomile smells like apples. The chamomile here in the US and what has come via Europe takes on a very different scent than the old apple chamomile. So if you ever get a chance to pass through Egypt or get your hands on Egyptian chamomile, you're going to have a very different experience than what we're used to here in the States. But when you take chamomile and lavender together, like we have with Lavender Dreams, you get a slightly different blend. But you still keep those floral fragrances. And for some people, it's a very relaxing scent. And that's part of the purpose of maybe playing with those flowers. And so that's one way on the floral spectrum to go. The other one is Moroccan, right? And so roses and rose water. If you're not familiar with rose water is actually the byproduct of trying to extract the oil out of the rose petals to make rose fragrance. It's documented well by the Iranians all the way back in the 12th century. And that rose water has been around and used for a culinary base, again, for centuries. And so if you're not used to rose water, you ought to go dig around in the Middle Eastern food aisle. You can bake with it. It's a beautiful fragrant. You kind of replace your liquids with it. It gives everything a nice, beautiful rose scent. So there's actually Middle Eastern pastries and candies that are rose scented using the rose water. So to kind of spin off of that, we took rose petals, blended them with jasmine. So this is Asia and China. So the Chinese have something to the equivalent of rose water done with jasmine and jasmine petals. And the jasmine water, again, is cooked with usually in desserts, so that fragrance. And of course they use it to scent tea, but there's nothing that says you can't just steep the jasmine straight itself. And so we blended it there. And so there's lots of ways to play with flowers. What I would tell you is if you think you're going to go out and do this on your own from your garden, do be careful. A lot of the pesticides used, whether you used them or your neighbor used them and they traveled by wind, are water soluble and may not taste great when you go and steep your plant in water. The other thing you need to be aware of is if you take them out of your garden and you dry them without a full professional dehydrator, you're not going to remove the same amount of available water that is possible with the larger scale commercial dryers, which means your dried flowers have a shorter shelf life. So if you're going to do that, drink up quickly. You're not going to want to keep them probably past the 3-month mark because you're going to watch them degrade pretty quickly. But in the meantime, figure as you go and play with steeping flowers in water, you're doing something humans have done for centuries. So enjoy. We hope you enjoyed learning more about tea with us. Hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when we add more videos to our channel. And check out the highlighted videos to learn even more about tea. And last but not least, you can check out all of the teas we talk about in our videos at dominiontea.com.